Who remembers an Olympic champion figure skater named Tonya Harding from back in the 90s? She was pretty good at what she does, but at some point, she had a rival named Nancy Kerrigan. And this rival was good enough to make her so nervous that the night before a major competition, she sent somebody, a thug, to attack her rival and make sure they break her kneecap so that she wouldn't be able to compete the next day. Well, everything went left and she was found out and banned for life. That story reminds me of the way Nigerian politicians are, especially with opponents that make them nervous, political opponents, people who could beat them at the ballot, at the polls, who make them nervous that way. They find another way to cripple you. And that's exactly what's happening in Nigeria today. Welcome to Nigeria, in case you just got here. Let's take a look at what happened in the ADC convention yesterday.
That the Eagle Square, whenever another political party asks to use it, that the adjoining section of the Federal Secretariat will be shut down for people to go to stay at home, to work from home, so that there will be movement in the spirit of fairness and equality. But that is not what has happened. The ADC has said they've been denied the use of that Eagle Square. Now, I saw Minister of the FCT some week on television saying that the ADC is just trying to gain public sympathy and that nobody brought such a letter before him. And he said, well, after all, even if you use the Eagle Square, the FCT will make money. After all, you will pay for it. But that his office is not in control of the velodrome at the Moshood Abiola National Stadium. Now, upon that, the ADC has now gone ahead to publish the letter that they submitted. In fact, addressed to Barrister Nyesom Wike, that's how it was addressed, Minister of the FCT, asking for the use of the Eagle Square. The letter was dated April 7. It was received and stamped, the version that is in circulation, that is, received by the office of the Minister of the FCT. Now, we say to the Minister of the FCT, he now has an assignment. And the assignment is as follows. How will a letter arrive in his office, received and duly stamped and acknowledged, and he, the minister, or whoever is the authority in charge, will claim almost a week later that the letter was not delivered or that the letter has not been seen? The minister should now investigate how his office or requests from persons who want to use the Eagle Square will become a Bermuda Triangle for legitimate and rightful requests, particularly by opposition parties. So it's not enough for him to grant an interview and say, I've not seen it. They just want public sympathy. No. He has to follow up, and we are here. We would like to know what the outcome of that investigation is. Now, associated with that is the denial of the use also of the velodrome. And then ADC now has gone ahead to get the Rainbow Event Center. Now, the allegation in that regard is that when ADC was going around looking for a venue, the owners of these private event centers were being threatened that they will face sanctions and consequences should they allow the ADC or any other political party to use their premises. And that is why the allegation, stands with those persons that the ruling party, APC, is trying to stifle the opposition, is trying to make the environment possible only for one party and only for a political tendency, and that the opposition is not favored in any way whatsoever. In other words, they are alleging that there isn't a level playing field. Now, these are serious allegations because Nigerians want free, fair, credible process. And the owners of Rainbow Event Center should not be harassed, should not be intimidated. Should the convention hold today, we do not want to hear that Rainbow Event Center has not paid ground rent, or that their papers are not okay, and they will be due, the premises will be due for demolition. So Every Nigerian is on notice in that regard.
So, what really happened at the ADC convention yesterday? You would think a political party holding a convention is a basic thing, right? Book a venue, gather delegates, elect leaders, simple, straightforward stuff. But no, not in Nigeria. It's really not that simple. The African Democratic Congress yesterday tried to hold its convention, but what followed wasn't just disorganization, it was a masterclass in how power really works in this country. Okay, let's take a look. Less than 24 hours to the event, the party had no venue. Imagine that. A national political party with thousands of delegates expected, still searching for a venue. Now, according to the ADC, they were blocked from using Eagle Square. They pointed fingers at the FCT authorities. On the other side, the response was predictable. They didn't follow due process, they were told. And just like that, the truth disappeared into the fog. Because here's the thing about Nigerian politics: both sides can be right, but are still playing games. But it didn't stop there. Other venues, suddenly unavailable. Private event centers, they all backed out. Now, at the last minute, they finally found somewhere to hold it. Now, hold on, wait a second. Ask yourself, how does a political party get rejected by multiple venues at the same time? Now, these are people who are obviously going to pay. A coincidence or pressure? Which one is it? This is where we need to understand something deeper. In Nigeria, politics is not just about votes, it's about access to venues, access to security, access to institutions. And once you can control access, you control the outcomes without ever appearing to do so. That is the real game. So, is this pettiness? Yes, but maybe not the kind that you think. Now, this is not just childish pettiness, it is weaponized pettiness. It's subtle, it's deniable, and it's effective. You don't just cancel your opponent's events. No, not outrightly. You just make sure nothing works for them. And while they're busy explaining why their convention is delayed, they start to look weak, disorganized, and unprepared. And sometimes they even come out and gloat about it in the media and talk about how disorganized their opposition is. That is strategy. Now, here's the twist: the ADC's biggest problem might not even be external pressure, it's the internal division. Never mind who planted it. The factions, the rival leaders, power struggles within the party itself. And this is where Nigerian opposition politics keeps shooting itself in the foot. Because while one side might be applying pressure from the outside, the real damage is happening on the inside. Egos, they clash, alliances break, and suddenly the fight is no longer about winning elections. It's about who controls the party. The tug of war begins. And of course, all their energy is wasted in that tug of war contest. So, what we saw yesterday wasn't just drama, it was a snapshot of a bigger problem. In Nigeria, politics doesn't begin with the ballot box, it begins long before that. At the level of structure, at the level of control, at the level of who can even organize themselves properly. And until opposition parties figure that part out, all the rallies, all the speeches, all the noise will not matter. Because you cannot win a national election if you cannot even secure a venue. That is the real story of Nigerian politics. Feel free to subscribe, give me a thumbs up, and we can do this again. See you next time. Thanks for watching.